Well, hi there. I hope your Thanksgiving was as good as ours was. It was both traditional and non traditional at the same time, and I'll explain that. It's Friday, November 29th, 2019, Journal 240, T+241. And I say traditional and non traditional in the respect that I actually went and looked up traditional to find out what the root of the word was, and it's Latin for to hand down, to pass down. And every family's got traditions. Your family's got them. My family's got them. We all have them. They came from our grandparents, our great grandparents, our parents, and we pass them on to our kids. Hopefully, the ones that are worth saving. And our tradition in our family, for our expanded nuclear family, Leslie, myself, Ryan, Steph, Dana, Craig, and the grandkids, Sophie, Audra, Oliver, and Ayla, has been to all get together at Stephanie's house. Stephanie does Thanksgiving, and it's a wonderful holiday. It's beautiful. She sets a magnificent table, and it's her parents and her sister and brother-in-law and cousins of ours, and it's just a lovely kind of tradition, and it's warm and it's toasty, and we really enjoy it. Everybody really enjoys it. And it's not that, it's not tradition like, well, maybe it is tradition like in Fiddler on the opening of Fiddler on the Roof, I think. But Stephanie just had Ayla, who's just 2 months old now, almost, I think. And so that makes it really hard to do all the work, do all the prep, cook the food. So we started a new tradition, I think, because it worked out so very well. Literally right around the corner from where Ryan and Stephanie lives is a Valley Icon, a restaurant that's been there since 1946. And it's traditional old, high-end kind of neighborhood. I say high-end, but I mean it's very reasonably priced for the quality of the food that you get and the service and the atmosphere. And it's really quite famous in many ways because of a number of the people of it that frequent the place. Among them was Pete Rose when he lived out that way. They've got one of Shaq's shoes there, which looks like you could get in and paddle across the Atlantic with. It's so big. I mean, things like that that are just wonderful. And what we decided to do this year, rather than try and go ahead and force everything and create havoc for Stephanie, we all got together for hors d'oeuvres and literally walked the 3 or 4 houses around the corner, the 3 houses in one office building around the corner to the restaurant, and took up a large table in a private room. They have 2 private rooms, one larger, one smaller. And to give you an idea of the restaurant and what it's all about, the smaller private room has been booked by the same family for the past 15 years. So, when you have a restaurant that's been in existence for decades and decades, as I said, from 1946, and it's been owned by the same family now for, I would guess, probably 40 years. It's just a wonderful place to go. They had for Thanksgiving, I feel like I'm doing their marketing and advertising for them. They had a price fixed menu. It was lovely. There were like 5 or 6 choices of anything you wanted, including traditional turkey. And it was wonderful, and it was warm, and it was nice. And it got me to thinking about this whole idea of what you pass down to your children and what they pass down to theirs and what's been passed down to you. And that despite the fact that there's a lot of trust involved because we do these things, I think there should be at least as much thought involved in it so that we recognize that we have a responsibility to, I'm not sure the right word is analyze, but at least think about the traditions that we're that we're passing on, that we're giving down, that we believe are worthwhile and meaningful. And perhaps the easiest way to do that is to say why. Because, traditionally we've eaten in the house, we've all got, there's no cleanup here. It's really a wonderful, wonderful thing. I mean, it's easier to let somebody else clear the table. It's easier to let somebody else do the dishes, especially when you have a newborn. And the only thing I would change, and you can't it'd be very difficult if the table was round, because on a long table, what happens is you always wind up having, groups. There's one end of the table that's locked in conversation. The other is locked in conversation. You're in a private room and you can't really yell from, one end of a table that's seating 8 people to the other. I know why we changed the tradition this year, and I know why I think it's going to continue. One of the reasons we changed the tradition this year was obviously Ayla's birth, and having a newborn there. You have to be extra cognizant of what their wants, needs, and expectations are. The other was me. I mean, I still have to be very careful when I'm out in public. I still am 100% immunocompromised. I can't eat certain foods because of prep issues. I can't eat salad yet unless, we're sure it's been washed at least twice. And there are all kinds of things that add into that. But the choices were such at this particular instance that we felt safe in my being there. That and the fact that the people that own the restaurant just happened to be neighbors of Ryan and Steph's anyway. And they went out of their way to accommodate us once Stephanie explained what my situation was. And the other part of it that's great is we had a server that's been there for I think she said 15 years, and if she ever gets tired of that place, she can go to New York and she could be a server in any deli restaurant in New York, because she got an attitude and a half, and she was a delight. She was just a giggle to be around, and it was just a wonderful holiday. And especially to have that happen at Thanksgiving was really meaningful to us, because for me, and I think for everybody really, every holiday that you can celebrate, every day that you can celebrate is Thanksgiving. Especially when you've been through a lot, when you've been challenged and you've met that challenge, or at least you feel you've met that challenge to the best of your ability. And maybe that's another tradition worth spending a couple of minutes on, and saying maybe the tradition should be to wake up every morning and say today's going to be a good day. Maybe the tradition should be recognizing that if you can celebrate anything, you should be able to celebrate everything, because you're so much more fortunate than so many others. So I think that's the message for today. It's a holiday weekend. You got things to do. I got things to do. I have gotten more stuff done in the last week and a half than I have probably in the month before that. Prednisone does weird things to you. So does the anti-rejection drug I'm taking. So do a number of the other meds. One of them is they get you pretty well jacked up. And they make you very productive. So if I'm talking a little bit too quickly, I apologize. But I've been productive. And with that, I'll leave you. I'll leave you thinking about traditions. Think about traditions in your own family. Think about traditions amongst you and your friends. Which ones are worthwhile, which ones are worth keeping, which ones should be enjoyed and passed down. I can tell you for a fact that I'm almost willing to bet that that this tradition of walking around the corner will be repeated, because it was just such a pleasure. And I know for a fact it was a pleasure for Stephanie and Leslie and Lydia and the other men and women that were there, the family that was together for that event. because we all had the opportunity to be guests, and we had plenty of time to mix and mingle before that with, you know, hors d'oeuvres and some wine and cocktails. Not me, I can't drink yet. Which is another thing that's added to that list. But in any case, I didn't have anything to drink, but they were all able to relax and enjoy. And then we were going to come back to the house for dessert, but the desserts were so good we had them there. Again, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend, spent with family and friends, those you love, those who love you. Stay well, take care, and I'll hang out with you tomorrow. Bye-bye.